The first one is irreducible mechanisms. Other creationists have written about this. An irreducible mechanism is a mechanism that cannot evolve step by step. You need an intelligent designer to put everything together in one go. I often say to my students, if you want to be good designers, don't try and evolve an engineering system, or you'll get nowhere, you'll produce rubbish. Put lots of things together in the right way, in a clever way, and you'll produce clever things. For ENVISAT, that ENVISAT satellite, by the way, ENVISAT was a very appropriate word for the satellite I worked on, this world's biggest civilian satellite, because it was bigger than every satellite made by NASA and the Americans. They were very envious, so the nickname was EnviouSat, or ENVISAT for short. When I speak in America, I really explain this in some detail. They cannot believe that the Europeans made something bigger than the Americans. But for this satellite, I designed and invented a double-action worm gear set, which has a world patent on it. And it could not be evolved. It had to be invented, lots of parts put together simultaneously. And I also see that in the natural world as well. In fact, in your knee joint, you have an irreducible mechanism, which I will explain. Because if you have a 4-bar mechanism, you can see here parallelogram mechanism. If you get your Lego Technic, if you invert that, you end up with an inverted parallelogram, and that's what you have inside of your knees. The black parts are the cruciate ligaments. They're crossed. They're called cruciate because they're crossed. The lighter grey parts are represented by your bones. So inside your knee, you have this 4-bar mechanism. Your bones roll like a cam, but your ligaments form a beautiful mechanism. And I've had projects producing bio-inspired designs based on that beautiful 4-bar mechanism. Every engineer knows that you cannot evolve that step by step because you need all 4 bars and all 4 links in place simultaneously. You cannot evolve a 4-bar mechanism. If you ever meet Richard Dawkins, tell him he's walking on 2 irreducible mechanisms. He cannot run away from the evidence. But not only that, in my group, we've also looked at other 4-bar mechanisms in the natural world. We've looked at the sling jaw wrasse. The sling jaw wrasse has a jaw which comes out like a parallelogram mechanism like this, and its mouth can shoot out to collect food or to kill prey. And once again, it's a 4-bar mechanism that cannot evolve by chance. When my researchers did work on that area, we looked up scientific papers on so-called fish evolution. We found one particular paper in the Royal Society from one of the top researchers who believes in evolution, but he made a couple of confessions in his paper on fish evolution. So when he got to the conclusion, this is what he said: several unusual breakthroughs in skull function characterize the evolution of the jaws of these fish. Now, that's what he said. Now, I write a lot of papers myself, so I can interpret what he means. When he says, several unusual breakthroughs in skull function characterize evolution, what he means is, I haven't got a clue how this skull evolved by chance. Later on, he goes on to say, the evolution of these fishes is occasionally punctuated by major transitions in engineering design, which is the most incredible admission. I just had to blink when I read that. Either he was converted in the space of 2 paragraphs, which is probably not likely, or he was making a confession that these things do look as though they were designed. Now, one of the things you often hear in the media, Richard Dawkins will often say this, that creationists do not publish papers. You often hear that in the media. Ironically, it's Richard Dawkins who's never published anything on design in the natural world or engineering. Both Andy and myself, we have well over 300 scientific papers between us. Many of those deal with design in the natural world, not just design. I've published many papers on the human knee joint, including the last few years, the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, the top mechanical journal in the world, and also a journal paper on that sling jaw Wrasse mechanism. So creationists do publish quality work. So irreducible mechanisms, that is an important hallmark of design that we see in the natural world.